why are you here to do this today?
Because John Key made the prediction here at Westpac Stadium in 2008. He said that the number of people leaving for Australia would fill this stadium. Today, this stadium would not be able to hold the number of people who are leaving. Eden Park would barely be able to hold the people who are leaving each year.
So isn't it a series of failed promises by governments past rather than just National's problem?
Well, they've made that prediction and they made that promise 4 years ago. I'm just here to say, you made that prediction, you made that promise. Your economic policies have failed to hold people and give people hope to stay here in New Zealand.
What's wrong with people seeking opportunity offshore? You did it.
There's no problem about New Zealanders going over offshore to do what they need to do, but people are leaving permanently in greater numbers than ever before and are not coming back to New Zealand. That's the difficulty.
When you look at that 50,000 though, are they all gone permanently, or what is the chances of some of them coming back 5, 10, 15, even 2 years down the track?
Well, we understand when they are leaving, they have been saying that we are leaving permanently to live outside of New Zealand.
Would Labour stem the exodus?
We believe that we can bring the numbers down. I'm not going to be here making predictions, but we certainly will put in policies that will give people hope to stay here in New Zealand.
Isn't this just proof, though, that it's too difficult to stem the flow across the Tasman? Labour couldn't fix it, and when it was in power, National can't fix it. Isn't this something we just have to get used to?
No, I don't accept that. I believe that New Zealanders want to live in New Zealand. We have to give them the hope and the opportunity to enable them to live their lives here, in this country, their country. So that means good jobs, it means affordable housing, all the reasons that will keep them here.
How do you compete with overseas incomes though? Because you compare New Zealand to offshore, pretty much anywhere where New Zealanders can live and work easily, we can't compete on wages.
We can compete. New Zealanders do want to stay here and live in New Zealand. They don't want to go to Australia, but we have to give them the opportunities to actually make a home here for themselves.
But historically, average wages in the UK and Australia, Canada and the like have always been higher than New Zealand's. How are you going to rectify that? That's the main attractor to this.
That's giving up before we start. We can't give up on young New Zealanders in particular. We must give them the opportunities to enable them to stay here and make a life for themselves and a good life.
What opportunities?
The opportunities of a high wage economy, the opportunities of affordable housing, opportunities for companies to grow so that they are able to employ more New Zealanders in good jobs.
When you say stem the flow, what do you mean?
That means slowing down the number of people going offshore, making it more attractive for New Zealanders to stay here and make a life for themselves here, to plan to have their families here, to get a good job and know that they've got some real hope.
So when Labour's in power, you promise to cap the number of people going to Australia?
I believe our policies will discourage people from going because they'll want to stay here for the opportunities that are going to be available here.
But will you cap the number going across the ditch?
I think we'll decrease the number going across the ditch. The policies that we have at the moment, which is effectively a hands-off policy, where you take your hands off the wheel and hope that the market will solve it, aren't working. What we need to be able to do is put our hands on the wheel and say, look, our companies need assistance, they need support, and if they get support, they'll employ more people and we'll have more jobs and better paid jobs.
Will you set a target? Yeah, would you set a target by which success could be measured? I'm going to
say, I'm not going to make false promises and predictions, but I believe that our policies will bring down the number of people who are leaving New Zealand to go to Australia.
Can you quantify by how much?
We're not going to go down numbers, but what I will say is that the policies at the moment are failing, and the policies that we will bring in will bring down numbers and make New Zealand a much more attractive place for people to stay and call their home.
Will you quantify it before the election?
I'm not making a prediction about that, but what I will say is that the policies that we bring in place, and I'm confident about this, will mean that businesses will flourish, that jobs will be created, and that people will be able to stay here in New Zealand. The mere fact that we are going to be building affordable homes for people is one attraction to stay here rather than go to Australia, where homes are more affordable there.
What are some of the other policies?
And ensuring that businesses grow, and that means incentives for R&D, research and development for companies, looking at the exchange rate, bringing the exchange rate down so that companies can compete more successfully with others overseas. That creates jobs, grows our economy. There are a number of policies that we'll bring in place that will enable businesses to grow and jobs to be created.
Do you believe that Australia and New Zealand have one economic market?
There is some obviously some markets that are the same, but what I wouldn't want to see is New Zealand and Australia merging together or anything like that. We have our own sovereignty. We want to make sure that New Zealand is a successful country in of its own right.
But in terms of the way it operates now, is it one economic market?
Not entirely, no.
Okay, Stephen Joyce says it is. Is that an issue?
I think that there are opportunities in Australia, but I don't believe that the barriers between New Zealand and Australia are sufficiently down to say that there's a complete flow from one to the other, one country to another.
Is there reciprocal fairness in the way Australia is treating New Zealand residents living in Australia and the way we treat Australian residents living here?
I think there are issues in and around the rights that New Zealanders get when they live in Australia, what their entitlements, given that they are paying taxes, and that's something that this government's taken up with the Australian government, which is right. And which we would do as well.
Because they're moving the national disability insurance over there to disqualify New Zealanders from coverage. I mean, Australians here get ACC if they have an accident. Is it something a future Labor government would take up with Australia?
I think that is an issue between the four of the relationship, and it would be something that we would bring up with the Australian government. And I believe this government is doing the same thing. I mean, it's one thing that we do share in going forward, that the rights and responsibilities between Australia and New Zealand are the same. Okay, thanks very much.